So I've mentioned before that I used to be quite the militant atheist, zero respect or tolerance for religiosity. I went through the angry atheist phase. This began around 2012-ish. I watched a lot of the Horsemen, enjoyed the ponage of creationists and religious demagogues at the hands of Harris, Hitchens, Dennett and Dawkins. But over the years, this content has become much less relevant to the social and political issues we're currently facing in the West.
Oh man, where do I start? Where do I start? I'll start by telling Dave I really like his videos and I think he's a good person. He seems like one. He seems like a cool dude, level-headed, smart. But I got a problem with this video right off the bat. Now, I don't really do response videos, but once in a while I will make one when I feel it's necessary. And since Dave has a big audience, I think it's necessary. First things first. The word militant atheist, the term militant atheist, it drives me nuts. It's basically a term the religious have used, like the SJWs use the word racist. That's how they use it against you. They want to say that you're being militant. What is militant about what we do? What we do is talk about religion and we criticize it. There's nothing militant about it. Making fun of someone? I don't know what we're talking about here exactly, but ridiculing people is necessary sometimes. As Matt Dillahunty once said, ridiculous ideas are subject to ridicule by definition. And you didn't just like Harris, Hitchens, Dawkins, and Dennett because they were ripping people and it made you laugh or anything like that, Dave. You understood that they had a point. Now, this is what I've been seeing a lot of lately. I've been seeing a lot of the people who are against the SJWs and against things like Islam all of a sudden want to give Christianity a pass. And it's been driving me nuts. I don't know why. It's like we have our foot on the Christian's head. We're holding them underwater. And for some reason, we want to let go. And it's like we want to let them gain some of the power we've finally taken away from them after, those 4 or 5 years of ponage on the internet. So this is my big problem with this. What we're really talking about here is atheism versus anti-theism. Now, I can end this video real quick by telling you Dave does a lot of conflating of atheism and progressivism. What I mean by that is he conflates someone with progressive ideas and ideals as atheists. And that's not what this is about. We all know from the start, I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist. That's it. So what we're really talking about here is anti-theism, someone who is against religion because they know it's harmful, which is why most of us have been against religion our whole lives, and which is why we probably became atheists in the first place. And no, I don't mean that we became atheists because we thought religion was bad. We became atheists because we knew there was no God. We figured that out. Now, the next step is, do you think religion is harmful? I don't think that anti-theism has become content that's irrelevant to the social justice stuff that's going on, because as you all know, the social justice warriors love to defend Islam. And that's my problem here. Just because Islam is a bigger problem at the moment does not mean that Christianity is not harmful, does not mean that Christianity does not cause problems, does not mean that if you take your foot off of the head of Christianity, that they won't try and come back into power, as we're already seeing now with the Trump administration. Sorry for that little rant. We'll get back into the video now.
But over the years, this content has become much less relevant to the social and political issues we're currently facing in the West. Social justice, the destructive nature of multiculturalism, the divisive effects of identity politics like feminism, for example, globalism, political correctness, and leftist cultural relativism. Some of these issues were briefly touched upon by Hitchens prior to his death, but in general, the Horsemen as a unit were concerned with religion exclusively. I don't believe in God or an afterlife because I don't believe the evidence as presented by religions is there. Being a militant atheist and a devout follower of the Horsemen was a kind of fanboyish phase for me. It was also a pretty narrow-minded one because I was dismissive of good quality arguments on a range of different subjects from certain people just because they believed in God.
Now, I can agree with you in a sense to everything you just said, even though I disagreed a minute ago, that some of this content has become less relevant to social justice issues, but only regarding Christianity. And the reason for that is because SJWs have no problem criticizing Christianity, but it is relevant when talking about Islam. Like I stated before, you can't say we can't be militant towards Christians anymore, and then possibly state we have to be militant towards Islam. I mean, would you disagree that we shouldn't be, quote unquote, militant towards Islam, or as I would put it, anti-theists? Don't forget though, Dave, Christianity is linked to social conservatism, which is basically what these SJWs at the moment have become. Like, besides sexuality, these SJWs are very conservative. They don't want you to speak your mind freely. They want to control your speech. They want to speech police you, They are basically the social conservatives at the moment. So, like, saying to us that we shouldn't be as militant, I mean, you haven't said that yet, but I assume that's where you're going with this. To say, like, we shouldn't be as militant towards Christianity is also kind of like speech policing. How can we ever stop the bad things that the religious do, or the SJWs do, if we can't continue to criticize them or be harsh with our words and ridicule them once in a while? Once we can't criticize the religious, which group comes next? Maybe it's the feminists. Maybe you can't criticize them next. I know that's not what you want, Dave. And I don't understand why anti-theism was a fad to you at one point in time, and it's not like something that you would continue to understand as useful and necessary. I mean, if you at all think that religion is harmful, then you should be an anti-theist. And if you're not, it makes absolutely no sense. If you think religion is corrosive to society, just like these SJWs are, you should be against it at all times. Yeah, you can have friends that are Catholic or Christian, whatever. Who cares? But when they speak to me about religion, I'm not going to back down, just because Islam's doing worse now, or because SJW feminists are running around crying and bitching to people all over the place. I'm not going to stop doing that just because this is going on. These issues are not mutually exclusive. Like, you could take care of these things at the same time. And the point about not listening to other people's points of view just because they were Christian or something, yeah, that was a mistake on your part, Dave. I don't know if you didn't get it at the time or you were just overlooking it, but all atheism has to do with is if there is a God or not. And all anti-theism has to do with is if you're against religion because you believe it's harmful to society. And I believe religion is harmful to society. And I will go against it at every turn. And I will not team up with the religious just to take care of another problem. If they want to team up with me to take care of another problem, that's fine. If they want to start poking their religion in after we take over that problem or while we're taking over that problem, I have a fucking problem with that. And they're not going to do it. And I won't let them. And I don't think anyone else should.
Well, I wouldn't listen to such and such a person because he believes in this or that. What a terrible mindset that was. An example of this would be Dinesh D'Souza. So in his debates with Sam Harris and Hitchens and Shermer, I was always 100% behind them to the point of having an almost palpable dislike of D'Souza. Now, thankfully, I've moved on from such a petty way of thinking, and I've grown to have quite a lot of respect for Dinesh. In almost every other domain of political discussion outside of religion, I find myself siding with him over Harris and the likes. And because criticizing Christianity is redundant in my view, given that I share with Christians a huge amount of concerns and beliefs about where we're going as a society, and the left just loves to beat up on Christianity and gives Islam a free pass, I think atheists have to realize that on the important problems we're dealing with now politically, the moderate Christian right are allies and not enemies. In short, I realized Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, they are not the enemy of the West. Judeo-Christian values built the West, after all. This is where my internal crisis with atheism really began.
No, Dave, no. It did not start with Christianity. Western values were not built by Christians alone. Okay, I'm not a history buff here, but I'm pretty damn sure ancient Egyptians had some good values. Yeah, they might have had some bad values too, and some of them we may have scrapped. But that's how society works. We keep taking from the older societies and building on it, scrapping the bad shit, keeping the good shit, adding new good shit. That's how society works. It is not Christian values that shaped the world. It's humanity that shaped Christianity to what it is today. If it wasn't for people going against the harmful things of Christianity, we wouldn't be where we are today. It's not Christians that did it. It's not their religion that did it. It's their humanity. Think about it, Dave. Wasn't it like 5, 6, 10 years ago only that we had to put Christians in check for raping children in the church, the pedophile priests? Are those Christian values we should be holding near and dear to our hearts? And I know you're against something like that, Dave. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that we still have to keep Christianity in check, because if we keep it unchecked, it will be free to do what it wants. And what it wants is a Christian society, just as Muslims want an Islamic society. They're just not as harsh about it, and as brutal about it, and as dedicated to it. This is what I mean by the false equation. Trying to call atheists today to stop going at Christians because you agree with them with a bunch of social issues now. That has nothing to do with Christianity and it being wrong and it being harmful. It has no bearing on those things, Dave. You can still criticize them. They aren't your enemy against these other social issues, but they're still your enemy when it comes to religion. Being monolithic like that is not a good thing, which is why I don't choose a party. I'm neither Republican nor Democrat. You can put me in whatever box you want, and I don't give a shit, but I'm not going to call myself one or the other, because there's too many issues that I differ from both sides. I can't choose a side there, because they're wrong on some things, they're right on the other things. And it has nothing to do with Christianity and atheism. The social values that you see that are bad nowadays is because of progressivism. It just so happens that a lot of progressives are atheists. And that's because when you are an atheist, you realize religion is retarded. You realize that that kind of conservatism and being a conservative person socially is not great for the world. So it just so happens that a lot of atheists are progressives, or even slightly progressive. It's no coincidence, but it's not because of their atheism. And I don't think it's redundant, Dave, to keep going after Christianity. Now, if you want to go after Christianity more than you're going after Islam, I got a little bit of a problem with you. And if you don't want to admit that Islam's a problem, then I have a huge problem with you. And I understand it there. I understand why you're saying this. But their Christianity is not what you have in common with them, Dave. You have in common with them social issues. And it's not stemming from their Christianity, because their Christianity would tell you not to take the Lord's name in vain. You know, speech policing. They would tell you what you can and can't say, which is what I know you've been fighting against for so long here, Dave. I've been watching your channel for a while. And that's just one example I picked off the top of my head, and I'm not going to go into depth on this, but you can come up with plenty of other similarities between Christianity and the progressives that you're probably just ignoring at the moment because of how annoying the progressives have been the last couple of years. And the only reason those progressives have been louder the last couple of years is because we've held the Christians' head under the water, and we didn't let it up. You're gonna see the effects soon, Dave. I'm already seeing it in the States. You don't have to take the pressure off one to put it on the other.
The issue I have with atheism in general now is when you remove Christianity from historically Christian nations, you lose the values, principles, and traditions that came along with it. So people find something to fill the void with.
Bullshit, Dave. Fucking bullshit. Did you lose your values? Did you lose your culture? Did any of us? Did the YouTube community do that? Did they lose their values and culture? All the ones we all follow never did. This is the problem when you try to tie this to atheism. There's no way. Yeah, some people might fill a void and go towards progressivism now, and you have to teach them that those values are wrong. progressive ideas are insane. You have to make them understand this is just what you've been trying to do and what we've all been trying to do for a while now. You don't just revert back to Christianity because it seems like these people aren't going to learn. You don't just pretend like all of a sudden, oh wow, they had the right idea the whole time and I missed it. But it's not, it has to do with all the values they've collected their whole lives. It has nothing to do with Christianity leaving. Tell me, Dave, did you lose all your values? I want to know. Did you lose the desire to get married or the desire to have kids or anything like that? Like, I'm sick of this straw man. It's really driving me crazy. This is the thing I hear the most, and this is everyone's problem, quote unquote, with being militantly atheist. Dave, do you think I just started lying because I'm no longer a Christian? Do you think I started stealing because I'm no longer a Christian? No, these things are things we know are correct because they're correct, not because they're from Christianity. That's basically the argument, oh, if you're not a Christian, then how do you have morals? How could you be an atheist and have morals? That's basically the argument you just gave me. Now, I might have to repeat myself again when we listen to the next part because you're continuing it, so here we go.
And what has the West embraced in its place? Well, as I've mentioned many times, a leftist and uber-liberal philosophy of political correctness and moral cultural relativism. Who are we to say what ideas and morals are good or bad? The inability to say no to cultures and customs that despise our values. All cultures, all ideas are created equally. It's ridiculous. You might also add to that the loss of the community-building elements of Christianity included a high level of civic engagement, loyalty to the group, a respect for the different roles of men and women, a priority on maternal caregiving and child development, and of course marriage. Now, for those of you saying, oh Dave, marriage, not this again. This is an irrelevant, old, outdated custom. It has no place in the 21st century. Now that may sound very progressive and cosmopolitan of you. Marriage is almost always a path, more often than not, to not only producing offspring, but bringing them up in the best possible environment and giving children the greatest chance to achieve in later life. Now, you may not take marriage particularly seriously, that's fine. But there's another religion out there that takes marriage very seriously and is happy to use it as a weapon to outbreed you.
So you're saying we have to value Christian marriage because Islamic marriage wants to outbreed us? That's insane, Dave. And I know that's not what you're exactly saying. I know you're saying marriage is a good thing for raising kids and all that. And I'm not going to argue that point because it is. And I'm not going to say that also that you can't get married because there's no reason if you don't want to get married that you can't. But marriage is not primarily a Christian value. Do you understand? Like you just said, every religion has that value. Every culture seems to have that value, honestly. It's not just a religious thing. Yeah, it may go through the church. Yeah, it may go through the state now, but it's not a religious practice. I mean, human beings are how old, Dave? 200 million years old? Do you think we only had marriage starting with Christianity about 2,000 years ago? Do you think people weren't getting together in unity to produce a family and prolong the human race? That's what we've been doing since the beginning of time. We're a social species, and we're one of the types of species that pick a partner and stick with them more often than just switching partners. It's part of our evolutionary history. It's not stemmed from religion. Religion may have made it a little more secure and lawful, but it doesn't matter. The idea was always there. Getting together with a partner and creating a family. And about the community building within Christianity, that is not just a Christian thing. I don't understand this one at all. I mean, I stopped going to church after 7th grade, okay? So throughout all of high school, I wasn't religious at all. I didn't give a damn. I still wanted to find community. I still, there's lots of communities that are around that have nothing to do with religion. Like, I always liked heavy metal, so I found people who liked heavy metal. We got together and talked about it and listened to music. There's all types of communities. It's not a Christian thing. I don't understand the conflation. I don't understand why we can't separate this in our minds and see how it's a human value. We're a social species. It has nothing to do with Christianity. Yeah, Christians like to build a community and they do it strongly. Just because we got rid of the idea that God doesn't exist and religion is bad for you doesn't mean that we don't agree that community is good for you and that religious people make community. A lot of people have drank the Christian Kool-Aid lately, and it's just because, you're getting into conversations with Christians about social justice warriors, and they drop in a little thing about Christianity here or there. You don't even notice it, and it's starting to take hold in people's minds. And you know why? Because we're letting our foot off their heads. And that's why the progressives got strong, because we let our foot off their heads.
Nowadays, education promotes cultural Marxism, self-hating nihilism, the destruction of the family, the denial of biological truth when it comes to gender, sexual liberation to the point of sexualization of your children, a dependence on big government, identity politics, social justice, solipsism, and an obsession with the self, the ego, personal material gain, individualism. Just look at the self-help industry and how it's exploded in the past few decades. People try to find meaning in just about any new age fad or emotionally compelling internet craze or social justice movement. Instant gratification and hedonism are sought over the ability to delay gratification and think rationally about future consequences and the concerns of others. Stefan Molyneux recently compared the atheist jettisoning of Christianity to being like a person complaining that their lifeboat wasn't built of better material. Now, you can keep complaining and damaging the lifeboat, hacking away at it until it's riddled with holes, but you'd better have a good and viable replacement for it, otherwise we're all going to drown.
I am under no obligation to replace anyone's delusion, okay? The fact that there is no God shouldn't cause people to lose their value system as human beings. And if it does, there's something wrong with them, and you have to try and help them. Now, all those things you mentioned at the beginning of the clip that education is promoting lately, cultural Marxism, social nihilism, the destruction of truth, biological gender, progressivism, feminism, all the stuff you mentioned there. Do you think Christians are not nihilists? Christians think that they're worthless unless they believe in Jesus. How nihilistic is that? Your life isn't worth anything without this person. That's pretty goddamn nihilistic in the first place. And secondly, you've mentioned all the things that these people are trying to destroy with that education. You've named all the things it's promoting. And you did not name atheism. Because all atheism can promote is no belief in God. And all anti-theism can promote is to be against religion for its bad qualities. Like I said, I am under no obligation to replace anyone's delusion of a God creator. And if their stupidity leads them to believe that because they don't believe in God means they have to believe 900 million things, maybe that's the fault of the religion that they implanted into their head in the first place. If they didn't implant in their head that you couldn't do this or be like that without God, maybe they wouldn't have to be flailing around looking for something to replace it. Because God is responsible for everything in your life. So obviously, once you take away God, you have to replace everything, and you can't compartmentalize anything.
Christianity was capable of saying no to bad ideas with the courage of its convictions. What conviction do European liberal politicians and their followers have now? This is the reason the West is drowning in its own self-loathing, pathological altruism, and shallow virtue-signaling stupidity. In my last video, I told people that I was attending my niece's confirmation, and I was in fact standing for her. I said this because that was the reason I was going to be doing the regressive news one day early. Now, of the people who commented on this irrelevant fact in the video, most were very respectful and nice about it, so thank you. And again, this was a very, very tiny percentage of people who commented on that video. But there were some people who decided to simply quote Richard Dawkins' sentiments, and also who were more than a little hostile and disrespectful. So I think people now clearly know my thoughts on militant atheism, and yes, people can change and become more pragmatic and moderate, because I did. This is called growing up. And no, to answer this person's comment, they don't teach the kids about scary fire and brimstone and damnation nowadays, because that's pretty awful.
Dave, you're batshit crazy if you think they don't teach you that stuff in church nowadays. I don't know how it is in Ireland. I haven't been to a mass there ever, but I've been to masses here, and they still teach you stupid things. They say a lot of bad, disgusting, horrible things still that seem to be good in the context of their Bible, but it's not good. Now, these people who were dicks to you, that's fucked up. But my sentiment is, you can't be a good godfather to your niece because you are not religious. religious, Dave. You do not believe the stuff in the books, and your purpose as a godfather is to guide her spiritually and religiously. So I don't see how you can do that. That aside, that's not the point of this. Now, Christianity was not able to say no due to their convictions. They were able to say no because they were forced to say no. Do you think the pedophile priests would have stopped? Did they just say no because of their convictions? No. Other people had to tell them because of their humanity that you're doing something terrible and evil. And the only reason, if they're not teaching about fire and brimstone, is because other people had to tell them to stop teaching such horrible things to children, Dave. This is what I don't get. This is why we call it porch atheism. It's as if you guys are cucking for the religious. One religious, because another one's becoming more powerful. I'll never understand it. And I think I'm going to have to end the video here, because I'm not even through half of it, and it's already 20 minutes long, and it'll just get longer and longer. Now, respectfully, Dave, I like you, I like your videos, and I think it's just that you're on the wrong path here. And I think you're not looking at this in the right light. You're seeing Christians not being against Western values as these cultural Marxists, but there are still Western values that some Christians are against. And yes, it's not as many Christians, so it doesn't seem like we have to press so hard, but you always got to keep them on the back burner. I don't know if you know about barbecues. I don't know if it's an American thing, Dave, but we have barbecues and we throw the food that's done on the back burner on a lower light just to keep it warm. We don't let it get cold, and we can't let ourselves go cold against Christianity, because they will come back strong, trust me. And that is the point of my video, and I see it a lot lately, a lot of anti-SJW people who have sort of backed off their anti-religion, and I just don't understand why, because it's still horrible here. There's still plenty of stuff going on in America. Maybe it's not as bad as Europe, but their progressive ideals caused what's going on in Europe now, not their deduction of a god or the belief in one. Good night, everyone.